And now we are honored to welcome our guest from Ukraine, the head of the State Nuclear Regulatory Inspectorate of Ukraine, Oleh Korikov. Very welcome up on the stage.
Here. Okay.
Very welcome. And
Thank
you
you
will
very much,
speak
Mr. Korikov.
under the heading Nuclear Safety, Security and Safeguards under Armed Conflict Situation. And we look very much forward to listen to you.
Thank you very much.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much, first of all, Mikhail, that invited me and my team to participate in your special day on radiation safety. Thank you very much. And my presentation in particular will cover what Russian brutal military aggression looks like, and you will learn a little bit more about what direct threats currently we have in Ukraine, how we respond on it, how the full-scale war of aggression affect to the international obligations of Ukraine, and agencies, International Atomic Energy Agency role as well. Current nuclear fleet in Ukraine is full. At the slide, we have 5 nuclear power plants sites, including Chernobyl. We have 4 nuclear power plants in operation. Currently, Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant under the Russian occupation. Also, we have a lot of red waste treatment facilities in Chernobyl exclusion zone, and we have spent nuclear fuel storages at that area, and 3 units of Chernobyl nuclear power plant under the decommissioning stage, and 1 unit, as you may know, unit number 4 of Chernobyl nuclear power plant, post-accidental damaged, completely damaged with the Chernobyl disaster in 1984, currently covered by new safe confinement and shelter object as well in Chernobyl. And also we have 15 units of water-cooled, water-moderated, pressurized water reactor, former Soviet design. 2 of them are 440s, and 13 of them 1,000 megawatt each nuclear power reactors in Ukraine. For more than 2.5 years, Ukraine is defending itself against a full-scale Russian aggression, unprovoked military attack on our country. Chernobyl exclusion zone was captured, but after the 2 months liberated and under the Ukrainian control. But Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant currently in Russian occupation. So this is how it was. This is a picture from the back, please. This is a film. This is a movie, so you can switch it on and see how it was with the voices. This is Russian tanks, Russian military machines on the main square of Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So, but Chernobyl exclusion zone was liberated. The number of red waste management facilities were damaged since Russians made a trench directly, military trenches directly at the post-accidental radioactive storages, so as the surfaces. So that it means that Russians get so a lot of exposure. Also, billions of euros from international donors were spent by Chernobyl Shelter Fund to cover post-accidental destroyed unit number 4 of Chernobyl nuclear power plant by shelter, by new safe confinement. And it also was an occupation. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant capture, it was on 3rd of March 2022. It was like 10 days after the military aggression started. And Russians currently illegally presented at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and illegally operated here. So more than 2 years, this nuclear power plant remained in occupation. Next, please. During the beginning of invasion, Russians even attempted to seize Pivdенно-Ukrainska, South Ukrainian nuclear power plant. It was about 30 kilometers from Russian troops to that plant, but fortunately, Russians did not succeed. Also, these power plants were not only the cases of irresponsible Russian actions on harming nuclear safety. As a result of bombardment, the buildings and power supply system of National Scientific Center in Kharkiv, especially to nuclear reactor source, a neutron source, were destroyed. This is, you can see on the pictures, the damages with the Kharkiv subcritical installation neutron source. Shelling of different other nuclear facilities taking place during the full-scale invasion. I mean radon, red waste treatment facilities, main grid lines losing the result of shelling. I mean Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, first case on 6th of March 2022. Also, we have Institute of Meteorology and Liptsy base in Kharkiv region with a number of sealed radiation sources. It was shelled on 8th of March 2022. Cruise Russian missile identification above the Ukrainian nuclear power plant sites during the shelling. First case fixed in 2022, 26th of April. So, and the next cases as well. So we inform with the information about the risks to radiation exposure or to nuclear power plants via the International Atomic Energy Agency system, unified system USIE. I mean, we downloaded the statements on this. So also I have a long list of shellings, and I will maybe represent it separately when we'll answer to your questions. Next, please. Ukrainian nuclear facilities and energy sector are subject to continuous missile and drones attacks by Russian Federation. They destroyed a huge number of Ukrainian conventional power plants and hydropower plants. Now you can see these pictures on the up and right, thermal power plant near Kiev. We call it the city Ukrainka, and the Tripilya electric power plant with 2,000 megawatt electrical power of this plant. And also we have several other pictures with the damages on the hydro power plants. Direct missile attacks to the dam you can see at hydropower plant. We have currently, you have a list, you can see the list of threats connected to the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant occupation. So I will emphasize about that there is a lot of mines within the perimeter of control zone and surrounding territories, and we do not know how to manage this. Russians place fire points within the nuclear power plant area. So, and they place in military machines inside the premises of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to hide them, to use nuclear power plant as a shelter to store the military stuff, military machines, some ammunitions, etc. So, and they do not allow the agency staff who is permanently monitoring Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant to visit that premises to understand what is internals and etc. So they, Russians, practically transformed Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant into a military base. So, and this is nothing common to nuclear and radiation safety. So they restricted access of legal management and legal staff members to the site. So physical protection system does not even exist. So they also implement illegal modifications to nuclear installation design. So it was fixed by the agency, by Ukrainian staff as well. Next, please. We do not have capabilities currently to operate with emergency preparedness and response system as it is designed. So we do not have information about online or information transfer about the radiation from the radiation monitoring systems that Russia disconnected it with to data transmission, and even to the agency there is no channel to transmit the data online about the radiation status of Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So no reliable grid connection, since we have only 2 high voltage lines connected instead of 10 lines before the military invasion and before the occupation. So this is, and the last but not least, that we currently, Kakhovka Lake disappeared since Russians blew up Kakhovka Dam, and we currently do not have enough water supply to operate with Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. We succeeded with to transfer all 6 units to cold shutdown, so that we currently have we decrease the amount of water that is necessary to keep the nuclear fuel within the limits. I mean, not to heat up it. But anyway, this is nothing common to safety. Next, please. Some regulatory challenges we listed separately under the military invasion. So there is no experience in the world of safe operation of nuclear installation in the context of large-scale war. I will return it back in the end to that statement that this is vital. As well as there is no experience on nuclear regulation in the context of large-scale war and post-war period. But we currently have, since we have Chernobyl nuclear facility deoccupied, and we will add to this particular topic in the next presentation. So Regulatory authority has taken unprecedented measures, actions, and put a lot of efforts to continue effectively regulate activity to ensure support and restore nuclear and radiation safety. Next, please. Well, according to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, this is important that when it was occupied, our staff were there, and we, how to say it, evacuated our staff, but with putting it on hold, as it shows on the slide. But currently all inspectors are healthy, families okay, and we continue to operate with this unit dedicated to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, but in online mode with through analysis of information that we have from the operator, from the International Atomic Energy Agency, and from the design documentation. So, and we are familiar what is happening at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. How we regulated Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Currently, we restricted licenses with a cold shutdown mode. So, but the sequence of decisions shown at the slide. IAEA involvement to Ukraine. We engaged permanent presence of the agency to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Since September 2022, they are presented at Zaporizhzhia. So they have a rotation on a monthly basis. And the main goal is to reduce the risk of accident, to gather information from Russians and to reduce risk of accident with the information analysis and so partially disclosure, and they press on Russians to disclose them. But it's difficult for them. Next, please. The agency also presented, we invited agency to be permanently presented at other nuclear power plants sites, including Khmelnytsky, Rivne, South Ukrainian, and also Chernobyl nuclear power plant site. So since January last year, they permanently presented. Also, they have monthly basis rotation, and the main goal is to support Ukraine and to report to the agency headquarters how the war affected nuclear power plant safe and secure operation. And also the goal is to establish the priority of needs of nuclear power plant operator and also regulator and another counterparts licenses of the support, international support that indeed we need. So response and emergency and assistance, response and assistance network agency, how it works. So we can see on the slide. Member states and international organizations had offered extra budgetary cash contributions to support agencies' efforts to providing technical support and assistance to Ukraine in nuclear safety, security, and safeguards, including the sustaining the continued presence of agency staff at the 5 nuclear power plants sites in Ukraine. As a result, we get support as it shows at the slide. Next, please. Also, during last year, donors continued support of Ukraine in these difficult times. So we received the dosimeters, personal protection equipment, transportation equipment, office equipment. Thank you very much, for your support also for Sweden colleagues. Another assistance of the agency, so for example, a medical assistance mission. So some details you can see on this slide. Next, please. Some staffing issues. We have some challenges about the inability to get to the office, since we have a lot of pressure and alarms, transportation in the first several days. Even buses were out of services in Kiev, so you can use your own means of transport to transport yourself to the office. Or we implemented the out of office work, so we get the computers from the agency, we get the communication devices, and we currently can work on the distance. So it's very helpful, and it could be one and the main way how we can implement our duties during the work conditions. So it could be the case one or several days in some cases. So also we have technical support organization, and their staff also available online. Next, please. So some also regulatory challenges you can see on the slide. So I would emphasize that we currently unable to carry on supervision on occupied facilities and territories, and this is important that so we have to develop regulations, but we need to be we need to pay more attention to the development of regulations that we can indeed implement, since we are very much involving in the 24 hours a day response activities measures. So how our activity changes when the war starts. So society communication main functions of regulatory authority in Ukraine, I think the same in Sweden as well, that we need to report and promptly notify society of radiation accidents on the territory of the country and beyond its boundaries, in case of transboundary release as well, and what indeed situation is. So, and how we respond on this information and emergency center activated. It is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On duty, our experts with this center. So we have direct connection to nuclear operators and to licensees as well. So we have automated systems, emergency exercises, forecast analysis. We use computer codes, and thank you very much for your support in the cyber direction and cyber security and computer codes as well. So target groups, next please. Oh, yes, okay. Target groups, how we communicate, and tools that we implement, that we use, you can see on the slide. So next please. what is the main topics of the information that is relevant to communicate is you have to communicate information that was verified. It's indeed true and real information. The next is that also you have to cover international cooperation, also International Atomic Energy Agency activities to support. Also, you have to cover the forecast analysis in case of some radioactive release. So that's the main point of the main topics of communication. Next, please. How it it is huge. When the war starts, we got. So on the slide you can see several figures and indicators. For this purpose, use all opportunities, and the figures are about 1,200 views of publications per day. It is the peak when the war starts. So, and another figures you can see on the slide. So we currently have a Telegram channel with more than 1,000 followers and etc. So we have to work closely with media. Next, please. This is the first time when I like to focus directly for the I think it could be relevant for Sweden that secure power operation of nuclear power plants depends on transportation of radioactive materials in first, I would say, part. And generally speaking, we lost we have four, I would say, options, but we lost it, two of them with the war conditions, since we do not have water waste and we cannot implement air waste since we have a war. With the beginning of the war, we said our legislation as well as international guidelines does not allow transportation of nuclear material on the territory of country during the active hostilities. But operation of nuclear power plant and other activities in the field of nuclear energy use require certain technological operations, including transportation. So this is a vital. I mean, spent nuclear fuel, we mean fresh nuclear fuel, we mean radioactive sources, and etc. So uranium mining, uranium products. So how we regulate this, how we operate with this? Under these circumstances, we take into account the risks caused by military activity, particularly in specific regions, not in general, but particularly. Ensure the safety of nuclear power plant operation. And we take into account the needs of radiation facilities, activities, medical treatment functioning, and so all industries' needs. We have been making the regulatory decisions for each specific transportation case by case based on optimization principle, the potential risk assessment for particular transportation. We mean time frames, territory, itinerary, risk associated with military actions directly in that particular itinerary, specificity of radioactive material and route, And also security service and the defense forces are involved in this analysis as well. And final point, that we provide the continuous advisory support to applicants and licensees for transportation safety and security insurance, so that it should be clear and cover a comprehensive analysis. Next, please. Security of each transportation of radioactive material is considered according to the recommendations of the document that you can see on the slide. We have also ensured additional physical protection measures and potential threats. We can choose itinerary to avoid areas of serious threat. So if you plan, we plan it, careful study of the route to assess the current status of the situation, optimization of transportation time, provision of additional security measures, and we have support from the forces of defense as well for spent fuel transportation and French nuclear fuel. Next, please. As a result, Ukrainian industry continue to utilize nuclear energy, and nuclear energy is a basis of Ukrainian independence currently. Currently, at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, we have agency. At all nuclear material at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is accounted according to the comprehensive safeguards agreement between Ukraine and the agency as for non-nuclear weapon state. So we received the report, positive statements in accordance with the article of our agreement that all nuclear material are in place. Currently, we have cameras, we have surveillance systems, as usual for the non-nuclear weapon state, and the agency are monitoring online from the headquarters of Vienna the integrity of the seals and cameras as well. So in case of the fresh fuel, we also implemented inspections on a monthly basis, and agency reported that also with nuclear, fresh nuclear fuel, the situation is under the control. We have, as well as Sweden is contracting party to the Convention of Physical Protection of Nuclear Material. And as we have an aggression, we have violated by Russia some points, particular Article 2A and Fundamental Principle ACDA. The threats to nuclear material and nuclear fuel at the territory of Ukraine caused by Russian war of aggression have already gone beyond these convention. In fact, collective aim of the strengthening nuclear security globally stipulated by the amended convention is officially destroyed by one of its ratifiers, by Russia. So, and very important that Russia's full-scale military aggression proves that neither the convention nor the agency recommendations provide the measures to ensure the physical protection of nuclear material are fulfilled in the conditions of full-scale war. This is our insight. Next, please. You can see the risks is in terms of design basis threat. You can see the risk that not, how to say it, considered when we established existing DBT as we have conventional operations. So the factors beyond, for example, cruise, ballistic missiles, rockets flying over the plant, and some another. Also, it's important cyber attacks, you can see. And we have to keep the DBT according to the existing threats, and this is the area how we can improve our security. Next, please. Well, we have several decisions, several resolutions of the agency, Board of Governors and General Conference, and I thank you very much for your support. We just 3 weeks ago get new one that is necessary to demilitarize and deoccupy the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and return it to the under the control of legal Ukrainian authorities, and so about this, and that Russians have to withdraw from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant immediately, but Russians do not implement it, and without any penalty. So, but anyway, this is important factor that we have international support to this particular. The only way to return back safety and security at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is to get rid of Russians and regain the control of Ukraine. So, agency, as I'd like to deliver to you that we have the area of improvement of the agency, since they continue to hire Russians into the headquarters. They continue to conduct international events on Russia's territory. And so, for example, they continue to meet and negotiate with Russia. And they continue to publish Russian propaganda statements on the agency's websites. So when we still Chudakov is the first deputy of Director General, and etc. So we have a lot of works on how to improve, how to strengthen agency in this area. So I move to conclusions. As I said, the only sustainable legal basis to ensure Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant safety is to regain the control of Ukrainian authorities. And Russia's terrorist state maintains a significant influence on the United Nations and then on the agency. Thus, these organizations shows low efficiency and makes impartiality impossible. We need to take it for granted and use our own strategy on this direction. And we do not have international mechanism for bringing to justice countries that violate international law, principles of nuclear safety and peaceful use of nuclear installations, nuclear energy. Several proposals just focusing on our partnership with Sweden. We maybe later we can discuss about Russians reported with the joint convention and with the Convention of Nuclear Safety about that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and another installations on the occupied territory they included these installations in their report, and we are wondering if you could support us or jointly to eliminate the legalization of Russia's seizure facilities. Also, we can act together to decrease number of Russians residents as a headquarter staff members at the agency. So, for example, better to replace them with Ukrainians, since each Russian staff member is a spy of Russia, so you can be confident in that. So the next one is that we already agreed with the International Atomic Energy Agency to cover with the missions also critical electric substations that ensure a nuclear power plant connection to the grid. So we need also your support. Next, please. New lessons learned. New nuclear development in the country is based on political consensus, public acceptance, and robust nuclear and radiation safety justifications and assessment, and not consider military threats and impacts, as we are talking about the strategy. In the result, under the military threats and impacts, safety justifications are not valid, and political consensus and public acceptance impossible if we are talking about nuclear energy implementation. Any existing operating nuclear installation does not designed for military threats and impacts, such as missile, drones, shelling, forced seizure of nuclear installation, and etc. So, in conclusion, I would emphasize that full-scale military actions against my state with a developed nuclear infrastructure, use of weapons against nuclear facilities, capturing by aggressor, consider a huge nuclear threat, not only Ukraine, but on the global nuclear security. And we need to initiate, please return back. We need to think about to initiate the international discussion about how to decrease the appetite of aggressor country and from maybe some another potential aggressor country to implement weapons against peaceful nuclear facilities internationally. Next, please. Well, several words about we cooperate with our Sweden colleagues with SSM on the basis of agreement between this Ukrainian regulator and Sweden. We have several topics, and so also a lot of another topics. Thank you very much, Mikhail, for your support. We very much appreciate it, and we are. It's very important just in this particular case when we have an active military activities in Ukraine, and very much appreciate. Thanks a lot. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Korikov. Sweden have, as you heard, been a partner in radiation safety issues with Ukraine for many decades. And under this situation, the support is even more important, of course, not just for radiation safety, but of course also for other forms of financial backing. Therefore, we welcome Elsa Håstad, Ambassador working at the Ministry for Foreign Affairs and the Secretariat for Construction and Development of Ukraine. Elsa?
Thank you.
To show your presentation.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Elsa Håstad. I work at the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm an ambassador. I've been working almost all my life with Eastern Europe. That means Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, Eastern Europe. Me and my colleagues, we work every day in a newly established secretariat in support of Ukraine within the ministry. I have a few minutes with you and I will go through the Swedish support, what we're doing, what we've done since the full-scale invasion 2022. But the main message is this is at the top of the Swedish political agenda. This is at the top of the Swedish foreign politics agenda. So you see some photos. They are an illustration of what we do. It's about EU support. We support Ukraine's EU accession. I will come back to that. Then you see a photo from the visit. President Zelensky came to Sweden. This is from the meeting with our Prime Minister. After that, you see people, flags, and the Ukrainian ambassador. That's to illustrate the people-to-people support. Every Monday, we have a meeting in the middle of Stockholm. You might know this, maybe you attend the meetings, but it's an illustration of the huge engagement that we have in Sweden in support of Ukraine. We also have a substantial military support, and we also have humanitarian support and recovery support. Our support to Ukraine has never been this large. It is, of course, because of the war and the full-scale invasion. So, as I said, Ukraine is our priority number one in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But we have a long history. We have a very long history. I guess you've been to the museum, the Swedish Museum of Arms. They have a fantastic exhibition about hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years of Swedish and Ukraine relation. But bilateral, we have a relation after the independence of Ukraine in the 90s, after the fall of the Soviet Union. And Sweden was one of the first countries to recognize Ukrainian independence. And we started to cooperate immediately. And we heard this from you, telling us about your cooperation, but we have done a lot. Of course, we have the Swedish agency-to-agency cooperation, and agency meaning Ukrainian sister agencies and Swedish agencies. This is good because it's a peer-to-peer cooperation, but it's also good for the EU accession. Our agencies carries the knowledge of being part of an EU member. So when we work together with our Ukrainian agencies, it's sort of a win-win-win. So here is just a small example of the large group of Swedish agencies cooperating together with the financial support of the government, mostly through the development agency, SIDA. So this is an overview. This looks a bit stiff and boring, but it's a lot of money, and it's a total of 4.9 billion euros. 4.9 billion euros. It's an enormously big amount of funding. It's historically big. We've never had this large bilateral cooperation between Sweden and Ukraine. And as you can see, the largest part is the military support, 4.3 billion euros. I will give you some example of what we do. Democracy and human rights. We've been working with democracy and human rights together with Ukrainian partners for years. Just one example, the Nobel Peace Prize went to one of the partner organizations, the Ukrainian organization working for peace in Ukraine. That is one of our partners. We work with recovery during the ongoing war. And as I was introduced, being part of the Secretariat, it's, as I said, a newly established Secretariat, established by the government a little bit more than 1 year ago. I work there together with 3 other colleagues, and we work in support of recovery. And what does that mean? For example, energy efficiency. As you might know, following the news, Russian attacks have been targeting energy infrastructure in Ukraine. And I think that everything you've been talking about today also is an illustration of that. So we have an energy support of 300 million euro, and that is investments in energy infrastructure. Just to give you one example, to provide ordinary households with electricity, to help hospitals work and school to function. Private sector engagement. We want Ukrainian business to partner up with Swedish business. We want Swedish business to engage even more in Ukraine. We already have 80 Swedish businesses working in Ukraine. None of them have left after the full-scale invasion. That is also a sign of the commitment that I meet every day in my work. It's a commitment that we find in the Swedish business community, among civil society organizations, our government agencies. It's all over the Swedish society. And we also want to help Swedish business to re-establish or establish new business in Ukraine. So we do everything we can. This is just an illustration of Scania Corporation. Scania has a large business in Ukraine, but we also have a lot of other smaller companies. I know you cannot read this. You know, sometimes you listen and people have an overhead and a PowerPoint, and it's impossible to read. I know you cannot read. So this is just a symbol, just to illustrate it's a lot of business going on. That's like the main message from this slide. Demining. Mining is a terrible result, or it's a terrible thing happening in Ukraine now, and we have Ukrainian friends here. This is your life, and you know how much problem and what a catastrophe it is when you have 1/3 of the country contaminated. It destroys, of course, the agriculture and everything. Sweden is supporting demining with 21.3 million euro. This is a visit from State Secretary of Development and Trade visiting Ukraine. And I wanted to share this photo with you also to tell you that we have a lot of high-level visits. I think I was talking to our ambassador based in Kiev this morning. He's here visiting, preparing for a visit. And he said, I have someone from the Swedish government coming once a month. We cannot tell you about all the visits, but it's an enormous amount of bilateral visits and relation. And that is to show solidarity, to show commitment, and to be there, and to have high-level discussions. Justice and accountability. One day we will see justice after this war. Sweden is already now supporting war crime investigations. We also support the tribunal on a crime of aggression. It is still a process, but we have European Union and 43 countries supporting this. And we have Swedish experts and secondments working, investigating war crimes, making the documentation, because we know that justice will be served. We also know that this takes very long time. We are now dealing with cases that happened in Rwanda, in Darfur. We know it will take time, but we will have accountability and justice. And we do this, of course, together with EU, together with United Nations. Military support, advanced weapon system, ammunition, but much, much more. And the last figure is from September, a couple of weeks ago, and it's now over 4 billion euros in military support to Ukraine. This is something extremely close to my heart because the time we live in is historic. We have a war in Europe, but we also have a European Union growing. Ukraine has managed to make the fastest EU accession process that we have seen ever in Europe. Within just a couple of months, Ukraine managed to fill out the application, and to this summer, this June, Ukraine got a green light to start EU accession talk and opening of the chapters and the clusters. Sweden is committed and working in 15 of the EU acquis with Ukraine. What does that mean? It means that the cooperation that you have here is also a way of helping Ukraine to prepare for the EU acquis, for the necessary chapters, all the hard work that Ukraine needs to do in order to become a European Union member. This is something that Sweden is supporting, and this is something that we want happen as soon as possible and as soon as Ukraine is ready. It's a lot of hard work. We know this. The average is 9 years per country to enter into the European Union, but so far Ukraine has made impressive reforms. We have never seen anything like this, actually. So we are active in 15 of the acquis. This photo shows the high-level advisory group coming from Nordic-Baltic countries. It was a visit this summer. We were meeting with the chief negotiator, Olga Stefanishina, but also the Prime Minister of Ukraine, and we offer the best expertise we have in Sweden and in the Nordic-Baltic countries on a high level of advice to prepare Ukraine for the EU membership. Thank you so much. Comments or questions? Otherwise, I will hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Elsa Håstad. Då växlar vi över till, backar tillbaka till där vi började vid konferensen, och då handlade det ju om eventuellt ny kärnkraft i Sverige. Och därför välkomnar vi statssekreterare Daniel Westlén på Klimat och näringdepartementet. Välkommen. Du ska prata lite under temat vad som har hänt sedan du var här sist, kan man säga, för ett år sedan under strålsäkerhetsdagen. Vad regeringen gör när det gäller ny kärnkraft i Sverige.
Exactly, and as a courtesy to our guests, I was thinking of speaking in English. I hope that's fine with all of you. Dear friends of the nuclear technologies, it's been a year already since last time we met for the SSM National Radiation Safety event. I'm pleased that we have our colleagues from Ukraine here this year. Welcome to Sweden. Support to Ukraine is the most important foreign policy task for Sweden in the coming years. The continued collaboration between the Ukrainian and the Swedish nuclear regulators is important to ensure safe, secure, and reliable nuclear power in Ukraine, as well as in Sweden. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine continues to cause immense suffering. Russia is waging war against one nation, Ukraine, but it violates the rules of international law that underpins the security of all of us. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion, there has been countless breaches of the 7 indispensable pillars of nuclear safety and security in armed conflict, as expressed by the IAEA. The only sustainable way to end this situation is for Russia to return control of Ukraine's nuclear facilities to its rightful owners and end the brutal war of aggression. As co-lead of the Working Group for Radiation and Nuclear Safety within the framework of the Ukrainian peace formula, Sweden welcomes the understanding on nuclear safety and security that were reached at the Summit of Peace in Ukraine held in June. In the current, severely deteriorated security environment, it's more important than ever to protect the integrity of the international disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. This applies to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, where the IAEA safeguard system plays an indispensable role in upholding global security. It's important to adopt an approach that highlights the interplay of nuclear safety and nuclear security, along with the safeguards, in order to better reflect their commonalities. Such an integrated approach to nuclear safety and security makes it possible to optimize the balance of measures to fulfill the common objective of protecting people as well as the environment. The world needs more nuclear power. We need it to combat climate change. We also need it to make the world safer in a time of geopolitical upheaval, when energy is being used as a tool in conflicts between nations. We must now pace up the expansion of nuclear power both nationally in Sweden and globally to end our carbon emissions and to reach the goal we set in Paris in 2015. To reach the goal, it's of great importance to build competence and infrastructure to adapt and utilize nuclear power for a fossil-free future. In the Swedish case, there is also a need for adjusting the legislation for nuclear safety, security, and safeguards. Decades of political uninterest in the possibilities of nuclear technology has left us with regulation which, in parts, is ill-adopted for the expansion of nuclear power that lies ahead for us. By 2045, the greenhouse gas emissions from the Swedish territory will pass net zero on its way downwards. Power production was decarbonized decades ago in this country through the build-out of nuclear power. Also, the emissions from the heating sector have fallen sharply. However, our transportation sector still uses fossil fuels to great extent, and even though it has been extensively electrified, coal, oil, and gas are still used both as fuels and feedstock in our industry. Ridding ourselves of the fossil fuel dependency will imply a sharp increase of the consumption of clean electricity. To meet the growing demand, the government has launched several initiatives to enable a rapid expansion of nuclear power in Sweden. These initiatives include the establishment of a nuclear new build coordinator, Carl Berglöf, to advise the government in achieving a rapid new build development. Dr. Berglöf delivered his first report in June, where he recommended several actions to facilitate the plans for new nuclear power. One example that lies in the interest of SSM concerns the interface between civil construction regulation and the nuclear safety regulation. The government has appointed a committee of inquiry that will propose changes to the legal framework for nuclear installation. The aim is to facilitate the process of licensing new nuclear activities. Another aim is to establish a fair and effective licensing fee system. They also analyze the need for adaptation and development of the existing waste management system. The aim of this is to ensure safe final disposal of spent nuclear fuel and radioactive waste from the coming reactors. Alterations in the environmental code came into force at the beginning of this year. There are no longer any restrictions concerning locations for new reactors, nor any limitations on how many reactors are allowed to be built. Feels like a long time ago what we actually had a law prohibiting building more than 10 reactors and in more than 3 sites. But this is now long gone and we barely remember it anymore. In April this year, the government appointed an inquiry to update and replace the Act and Ordinance and the Ordinance on Nuclear Activities from 1984. The aim is to clarify conditions for existing nuclear power and to enable new reactor technologies. I look forward to telling you more about this when the results have been delivered next year. National competence building is essential for the future of nuclear safety. SSM is receiving funding to be used to build competence both nationally and within their own organization. And to my understanding, that job is going quite well. A related assignment from the government has been given to Statskontoret, the Swedish Agency for Public Management. Their task is to analyze how to strengthen the organization for a technical support organization for nuclear safety and radiation protection. Many countries have these technical support organizations. We don't. Should we have one? That's what they are looking at. Or should we try to build something in the existing structures? Anyhow, the technical support has to be strengthened. I'll skip that one to shorten it a little bit for you. The government's objective is to expand new nuclear power by at least 2,500 megawatt installed capacity by 2035. We state that as a first step to get people up and running, but beyond that, there will be a massive expansion. We've been talking about something corresponding to 10 reactors, big ones, to give you a ballpark number. Is it going to be corresponding to 8 or 12 reactors? I can't say. That depends on how the industry growth and how successful the Swedish export industry is in expanding their markets. The importance of nuclear power for reaching net zero greenhouse gas emissions is being recognized globally. I claim there has been a big shift in the last 12 months since I last was standing not on this stage but in this meeting. At COP28 last November, more than 20 countries launched a declaration to triple nuclear energy. And Sweden was one of the few countries that started that initiative and formulated the declaration. So I'm proud that we took part in that and made it happen. The declaration recognizes the key role of nuclear energy in achieving the global net zero greenhouse gas emission goal for 2050 and to keep the 1.5 degree goal within reach. Also, at the COP meeting, in the declaration itself from the COP meeting, that all of the world's countries stand behind, almost all of them, in consensus, there is an agreement to accelerate the development of nuclear power. And this is something new. Nuclear power has been excluded from these talks since COP6 in Bonn in, 23 years ago. But now nuclear power is back, and there is consensus that it has to be accelerated. Rapidly expanding nuclear power globally is a key tool to avert the climate crisis. In this important moment in time, SSM, as well as the SNIRU, have key roles to play. So I urge you to keep up the good work. Thank you so much for your attention.
Tack så mycket, Daniel. Vi har ju tyvärr inte tid för frågor nu. Jag har dragit över programmet så mycket.
Då lämnar jag scenen.
Ja, tack.
Tack ska ni ha.
Tack. Ja, då har vi nått slutet av den här händelserika konferensen. Innan jag lämnar över till generaldirektör Mikael Knochenhauer så kan jag påminna om att nästa års strålsäkerhetsdag, då det är alltså strålsäkerhets- och forskningsdagar, kommer vara den 22 och 23 oktober på hotell Scandic Continental på Vasagatan 22 i Stockholm, alltså mitt emot centralstationen. För att avsluta fullständigt här nu så välkomnar Mikael Knochenhauer igen. Tack ska ni ha. Och tack för att ni kom hit.
Ja, fjärde gången gillt. Jag ska inte utnyttja mina 10 minuter utan se till att vi kommer ut till kaffet. But let's keep to the language switch or switch of language that we have that we've done here during the afternoon. I'll keep this short. I think it's been it's been a great conference, and I also thank you, State Secretary, for your for your speech, and also for closing the loop, going back to what we were talking about this morning, which was about new nuclear. But the afternoon has been on the heavier theme. It's been about nuclear safety during armed conflicts, and I think everybody here was, felt the heaviness of this theme, looking at the situation in Ukraine, getting it described, getting it illustrated by pictures, some of them heartbreaking, and seeing that this is something that can happen just a few hundred kilometers away. This awareness has become very obvious to us. Maybe there was some wishful thinking. Only 3 years ago, we were concerned, but the overwhelming scale of what has happened is still something we are working with, realizing and handling. I would say some of the takeaways of the totality of what we've seen. We've seen the situation in Ukraine, but we've also seen, well, what kind of interaction do we have today? What kind of interaction did we have? And I think one of the takeaways is the great value of having long-term constructive interaction. We had it for decades during peace. Now there's a war going on. We know each other. We have channels to interact. We have the networks, and we can work together efficiently, get started quickly, know who to talk to, and know how to make what we do real support. I'm also somehow part of the presentation of Oleh and Natalia also showed this little bit strange mixture of war and normality. You got a question about new nuclear in Ukraine, and answered to it as though Vattenfall or me, if we had been talking about new nuclear in any country, you're planning for it, you have your process, you have your regulatory process, the government involvement, and you are working on that track as well. Also, you illustrated very well the some kind of duality in the importance of and the roles of international system, the International Atomic Energy Agency, playing a very important role as supervisors present at the nuclear sites. At the same time, it's an international organization. Russia are members, which creates strange and sometimes disturbing situations. I don't have any good punchline after this, so just thank you very much to our Ukrainian colleagues, Oleh, Natalia, and Irina. We're glad you could come here, and thank you to everybody else who participated on this stage in the discussions, or just listening to us and asking us questions. Welcome again next year. Thank you very much.